Back on the record, the time is 4:45.
You all right?
Oh, yeah, I'm just...
Dr. Eagleman, I'm handing you what's been marked as Exhibit 6.
All right. Yeah, Mez. This is the Mez paper.
This is not the McKee paper you were just
She's the
referring to?
last author. This is the McKee paper I was referring to. Mez is the first author. McKee's the last author.
Okay, so when I asked you, are you aware of any peer-reviewed epidemiological study concluding that there is a causal connection between playing football and CTE, and you said yes, and you referred to this article?
This is one I recalled, right.
Okay.
We're checking my library. I don't have those at my fingertips.
Are you aware of any other epidemiological studies concluding a causal connection between playing football and CTE?
Yeah, I think there's others on those poster boards over there. Okay, but okay, they didn't print off the hard copy of that. But we're looking through that digitally, and we'll get it to you if we find something.
Okay.
I got a whole crew working on this right now.
Are you aware of any peer-reviewed epidemiological study concluding that there is a causal connection between concussions and CTE?
Sure. I think there's a lot of those.
Concluding that there's a causal connection between concussions and CTE?
It's not going to say causal connection. It's going to be my interpretation that the excess rate ratio of concussions versus non-concussion or somewhere, or the odds ratio, if it's a case-controlled study, is going to show that it's a statistically significant, important excess with concussion. No medical paper is going to say at the end, in any way, shape, form, or man, this causes that in a particular study. Doesn't happen. Only happens occasionally in review articles.
Are you aware of any peer-reviewed epidemiological study concluding, no, strike that. Are you aware of any peer-reviewed epidemiological study regarding the prevalence of CTE in the general population?
I think so, yeah.
Can you think of a specific one as you sit here right now?
No,
You can't name one?
no.
You would have to have, in order to compare the increased risk from playing football to, well, as you just described it, when you interpret the causal connection, can you repeat what you just said a second ago about interpreting how you would interpret a causal connection from a paper? The increased ratio?
Sure, if there was a study, either case-controlled or cohort study, that showed an increase in the rate ratio or odds ratio that was important and statistically significant, wherein the comparator was either concussion or football playing, depending on which question you happen to be asking right now, and I don't know, then you could interpret that as establishing or contributing to establishing a causal connection between concussion or football and CTE.
When you say the increase in, was it weight ratio?
Rate.
Rate.
R-A-T-E.
And you said, or odds ratio?
Yes. An odds ratio is, you can only get an odds ratio and not a rate ratio from a case control study, with the exception of case control studies that include an entire population, of which there are very few, but there is one for kidney cancer in eastern Massachusetts. So it's possible to get a rate ratio from a case controlled study, but in general, all you can get is an odds ratio.
And it's the odds that you're comparing is the increase of odds from the general population as compared to the odds from the football playing population. Is that right?
No.
What's wrong about what I just said? I'm just trying to
The
understand.
general population would not be a good control group for that study.
What would be-
Because the general population would not, well, that's my answer.
What would be a good control group?
A control group would be a population that would, in a case control study, okay, would be a population, let's say you're doing a hospital-based study, there's a lot of different ways of doing the study. A control group would be a group that, if it's a hospital group, that would show up at that hospital for the same reasons that a patient with CTE would show up at that hospital, and had a disease, a neurologic disease, that was not associated with with football or concussion. In the case of a cohort study, it would be a population that was matched, either directly matched, or statistically matched for a variety of characteristics that both groups had. You take football players, in a cohort study, you take a group of people who played football or a group of people who you knew had concussions, and you would compare them to a set of matched controls. Or you would pick random controls and then make sure that they were, so you take someone with the same gender, say zip code, and age within generally a 5-year period, and then you would usually take 1 or 2 or 3 controls, and then look for the incidence of concussion or or CTE and or football playing and CTE, and compare the rates in those two populations. It's complicated. Epidemiology is non-trivial. It's not like physics. Physics is trivial.
Well, I'm going to run through these and we'll have a couple more questions after that.
Sorry, Chris.
He said he's almost done.
Oh, okay.
Are you aware of any peer-reviewed epidemiological study concluding there is a causal connection between mild traumatic brain injury and CTE?
Per se, no, but you've got the Bazillion article from 2004, which is scary as to that proposition. I got that article here.
Where was that published?
I gotta look.
Actually, let me have Exhibit 6, Doctor, so I can keep it all straight for Ed.
I'm sorry, Bazarian. That was in PLOS 1. PLOS, Public Library of Science.
Did you get that, Ed? Okay.
Are you aware of any
Ed and I go way back. He understands my language.
He just had the look on his face that I wanted to ask.
Well, he has his look on his face every time he takes my deposition. Doesn't mean he doesn't say what I'm saying.
Are you aware of any peer-reviewed epidemiological study concluding there is a causal connection between repetitive head injury and CTE?
Per se, no, but this Bazarian paper and some others that Bazarian's published are pretty close.
Are you aware of any peer-reviewed epidemiological study regarding the risk of CTE in people who have not participated in contact sports?
Not that I can recall.
Are you aware of any non-peer-reviewed epidemiological study regarding the risk of CTE in people who have not participated in contact sports?
Well, I think I've seen studies in all these areas, but that wasn't what I was prepared to testify about here today, so I didn't bring them by this category. But we'll look at what we got. What I have is on those, white charts, and so I need to go through them. I think there are articles on those white pull-ups that relate, that are yes answers to these questions, but I can't recall them.
Yeah.
This was not the area that I was included in my report or anything I prepared for today. But I'm sure there's papers on these in there.
Objection non-responsive. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, why don't we take a break, because if I'm gonna do some questions, I gotta move and all that.
Going off the record, the time is 4:56.